Hello, everybody. Welcome. Actually, welcome to our very first interview of a graduate of our nutrition and recovery coaching program. So I would like to introduce you all to Jeni Deibel.
Hello.
Jeni? Hi, how would you like to?
Well, nice to see everyone.
So what can you tell us about you to begin with?
Well, just to give you a little bit of my background, originally I graduated with a business degree. I was in finance and I was in staffing and just kind of the HR industry and different things like that. When I got married about 10 years ago, well, actually 11 years ago, I took a different route and wanted to go into health and wellness and fitness, but more with a holistic approach to it. So my cousin and I started an online gym, and I ran the nutrition side. She handled the personal training. It was a lot of fun. It was a subscription website with a lot of great information. And I specifically focused on nutrition as it relates to the body and the makeup and what we want to get out of our body as far as the metabolism and energy and just being healthy on the inside and on the outside. And then shortly after that, I wanted to dive a little bit more into nutrition, but I didn't want to take the more conventional route. So I went with a company or an organization called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Mm-hmm. Joshua Rosenthal, who I know, Christina, you know very well this program.
Yes.
It's a great program. It focuses on not only the dietary food intake, but he looks at everything as a whole. So what's feeding us, not just the food, but what's feeding us and nourishing us spiritually, intellectually, and just kind of looking at the body and how everything works as a whole. And that led me down a path even further when I found Christina. My father actually played a huge role in my decision to reach out to Christina and the Academy for Mental Health and Addiction Nutrition. He was diagnosed with a degenerative brain disease years ago, and it took his life rather quickly. And when I started to peel that onion, he was specifically, the diagnosis was progressive supranuclear palsy. It's called PSP, very rare. But basically, statistically, if you look at why people or when people develop this very rare brain disease, it's usually around this, it's like a cookie cutter disease. It's around the same age in everybody. It affects the brain pretty much the same way. You get the same symptoms, and at the end of the day, the same diagnosis and way of passing. Mm-hmm. So I decided to approach this with just an integrative outlook. And I wanted to learn more about what lifestyle and what nutrition and what toxicity does to the brain. And so I came across Christina and her program, loved every moment of it. So anyone who's in level 1, you're gonna be really proud of yourselves when you come out on the other side, because it's really cool information. And when you put it to work and help people, it's an amazing thing. It's a gift. So thank you, Christina, for putting this together for everyone.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm delighted that it benefited you and your process. Yeah. I'm so sorry about your father, by the way, Jeni.
Oh, thank you. But if you try to look at things, you try to put a spin on things, a positive spin, and had he not gone down that path, I probably wouldn't be on the path that I'm on. Mm-hmm. So if there's a silver lining in his disease and all these other brain diseases that we can benefit from, it's that, you know, science is taking us even further and we're understanding the body and the brain and the biochemical process as a whole a lot.
Exactly. And maybe he's sitting there saying, go, Jeni.
Yeah, I hope he is. So I found, did you want to ask a question?
No, go on.
So what I found with his particular disease and why this relates to what we're doing here today is, though he didn't work in a coal mine or a chemical plant, he created his own toxicity within in his body. So the majority of his life, he was a highly functional alcoholic. Physician, he had a high stress job as a St. Louis police official. And luckily he did get sober, and he was pretty young when he got sober, and he stayed sober throughout the duration of his life, but he was about 29. But following his sobriety came just a very unhealthy lifestyle. So his literally his dietary intake was several packs of cigarettes a day, several pots of coffee a day, not eating nutritionally dense foods, not feeding his brain. And therefore, this toxicity buildup caused a tau protein accumulation in parts of the brain.
Sure. So perhaps we could say that he switched addiction.
He absolutely did. So he couldn't do anything in moderation. So if he quit doing this, he would start, even when he wanted to become healthy, he would juice, but he would juice all day long till his acid was just pouring out of, he would, everything he did to the extreme. So I took some time off from work, even though I was building a practice, and I was still working with people with sugar addiction and weight loss. I took some time off just to continue to do some more research with everything and how it affects the body. And so I'm also a biohacker. I biohack myself, and I love doing it. I just, I want to have firsthand knowledge of what some of these treatments and therapies can do for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Came across this amazing doctor in St. Louis, Missouri, Dr. Jeni Deibel. She's a psychiatrist, but she's more functional. She has this great wellness center, and they do a lot of nutrient infusions and all sorts of great things for the body and the brain. And with talking to her, I was kind of in a dark state myself, and I was having trouble pulling myself out of it. So with the amino acid therapy and everything I learned from Christina on level 1, I was able to do so with nutrition infusions with a combination of different amino acids. And it's not ideal for everybody. It's not super cost effective for everybody, but it reaches the body at a cellular level, doesn't have to cross all these barriers. And it was highly effective with bringing me out of my dark cloud.
So this is intravenous amino acids.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, along with
which I think are incredibly powerful.
Very powerful, and especially for people who, I don't have addiction issues, but especially for people who do have addiction issues or even just illnesses. And just 70% of your immune system is in your gut, and when you're trying to repair that and you're trying to recover, it's really hard to kind of reach those places when there's so much buildup and there's so much, bad tissue and there's so much repair to do. So doing this via IV was a great experience for me, and I learned a lot from Dr. Thomas also. And with talking with Dr. Thomas, she was also trying to integrate a program within her wellness center that had to do with individuals suffering from addiction.
Great.
Which brought up a great topic with me because, of course, that's the route that I'm on. And so together, we've been collaborating and coming up with some really cool things, some really innovative things. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've already known about. It's just not into practice for so many years. And I had a really great success story with one of my clients, and I can share that with you.
Love you too.
Yeah, using NAD infusions to kind of help reboot, reset this client's brain, neurotransmitter production, and also help with the addiction issues. And so
could you tell our listeners very briefly what NAD is and what the therapy is supposed to do?
Absolutely. So NAD is a molecule that's in all of our living cells, and as we age, it declines. It stands for, Christina, are you going to make me do this? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. But anyway, thank you. But NAD, we'll go with NAD. And basically, when NAD...
Let me stop you just for a sec. So NAD is actually it's
a coenzyme.
It's a coenzyme of niacin.
Right, exactly. It's a coenzyme of niacin. And again, all of our cells have them, and it's essential for all of our cells to function properly. And it needs this molecule. And as we age, it declines. And as we live an unhealthy lifestyle, it depletes even further. So when individuals who are depressed and they're on SSRIs, what those medications are actually doing, it's taking that very small army of neurotransmitters that these individuals have left, which aren't probably a lot, and they are exerting the energy of this little army of neurotransmitters until they cannot work properly anymore. And that's when doctors want to add in another one, complement this drug, so on and so forth. And the difference between that and NAD is that NAD is going to actually help your body create a bigger army of its own neurotransmitters and get parts speaking with one another. That has been going on for quite some time, especially people who have addiction for decades. So I had this client who was suicidal, very suicidal. In fact, when I got on the phone with him, he just got denied access to a gun. He went to go buy a gun, and thank God he was denied to it. And he had just been in a very depressive state his whole life. Bipolar, anxiety, depression, alcohol, just anything to kind of make him feel better. And this is a 50-year-old man. So I convinced him to come to me, which took a lot of work, but I convinced him to come to me, and I said, there's some things that I think hasn't been looked at yet with you, and for that I'm sorry that that's kind of where Western medicine has taken us. Thank God for modern science, but there's some missing pieces there that I think at some point down the road are going to fall into place with Western medicine. But so he comes to me, and we talk about this NAD therapy for his depression, anxiety, bipolar, and for addiction. And so NAD therapy via infusion has been incredibly successful when you're taking it in certain doses consecutively over a certain amount of time, can actually reboot, and they call it rebooting or resetting the brain on its own so it can function, so it can have, there's cell turnover again, and there's DNA repair, and there's neurotransmitters that are talking to one another again. And so he's on board, which it takes commitment because it's not a one and done type of thing.
No.
Although after one infusion, you do feel pretty darn good. And I also did some blood work with him. And I asked Dr. Thomas to run a big panel on him to find out what type of deficiencies he might have, and to also check for the MTHFR gene mutation. A lot of people have, but what a lot of people don't know is that depending on which gene mutation you have, you're just a little bit more susceptible to certain diseases or conditions down the road. So, for instance, like that saying, your genes load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Right.
Basically, that applies to this situation. I actually have a gene mutation with the MTHFR, and I'm treating that nutritionally. And if you aren't familiar with the gene mutation, the MTHFR, the acronym is pretty funny itself, but basically, when you have this gene mutation, you could have one, you could have a double, you could have two of the same or one of each.
Well, you can actually have four of them.
Yeah. Four of them.
There's two different types of the MTHFR gene.
Right.
And one impacts neurotransmitters more, and one impacts the folate cycle more.
Exactly. And so the body, when that's impacted that way, the body can't go through methylation properly. And that just clogs up the whole process of what our bodies are meant to do, especially as it relates to detoxification. And so we ran a panel on him and found out that he does have 2 gene mutations. So that gives us a little bit of insight as to why he just might not be responding properly to certain medications. And, things are just a little bit harder for him. It's not always about him making bad choices. And some things are out of your control. And
congratulations, Jeni, for looking under the hood.
Oh,
because this is what we so strongly believe in doing with all of our clients, and especially our addicted clients who blame themselves, everybody else blames them. But the reality is these are things happening in their bodies that are outside of their control and knowledge until you start running the tests.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll get there with everybody at some point, but, for the time being, we're all just going to have to keep, peeling that onion on ourselves and other people and our clients, friends and family, and just pay attention to kind of what's going on with him, but with them. So after we figured out what was going on with him and his blood, everything physically, he was great. He was 75% deficient in vitamin D, so we got on that. And we got him started with the NAD infusions along with high levels of methylfolate, which is the active form of folic acid. And in case some people aren't aware, one of the big things that the MTHFR gene mutation will do is prevent your body from converting folic acid, which is in everything. And the doctors will tell you, go get folic acid. You're pregnant, you need folic acid. Go get a bottle of folic acid. If your body can't convert that to methylfolate, then you're just really doing your body a disservice, because not only is it not absorbing it and converting it, but it's also junking up your system with the byproducts of, these supplements that you're supposed to be taking. So,
well, and Jeni, the other thing that happens here is that then we cannot make sufficient amounts of SAMe.
Yes.
And SAMe is our primary methyl donor, and what that means is that it produces little molecules called methyl groups, which are required to turn amino acids into neurotransmitters.
Mm-hmm.
So without enough SAMe, we cannot make efficient use of our precursor amino acids.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point too, because if you have clients, or some of your students have clients, or I have clients that aren't responding to, a method that's been otherwise successful as far as an amino acid therapy, we need to start looking at other things,
Right.
And that's, I think, the big point there. So, so with this individual, we did a series of the NAD infusions. He started with 1,500, a bag of 1,500, which took about 8 hours. And we did this over a 6-week period. He did 2 a week, and we got all the way down to 300. And after the second infusion, he felt on top of the world. That I don't ever remember feeling this way. The clarity, the energy, having rational thinking, and then he was not even craving alcohol at all. And he wasn't like a raging alcoholic, but he did partake, and sometimes it went too far. And
Right.
So at the end of this protocol, he was in such great shape, mentally, physically, looked good. His skin was healthy. He stopped losing his hair. He lost weight, mentally, just feeling, just amazing. And it was just a great experience for him. And it wasn't just the NAD. Of course, we looked at his nutrition, did more of a keto diet to give his brain a lot of fat and a lot of protein. And, just kind of did a total body reset from a nutritional standpoint as well. So he's doing great today.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially considering, the alternative of where he ended up.
And especially given how suicidal he was right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that was my most recent, probably biggest, success story with this. But I'm still collaborating with Dr. Thomas at Radiance, Radiance Float and Wellness, and she's a godsend, to be honest with you, because a lot of what she does, she doesn't have to, but she cares that much about, the state of people, and knows so much that a lot of people, don't, and probably will go a lifetime without knowing as it relates to the body. So still working with her and collaborating with her on addiction protocol with this program. What's really cool about the NAD infusion is when it's used in addiction, there's a center in San Diego called the NAD Center, I want to say it is. They've had so much success with this, with people with opioid addiction and alcohol. And Dr. Thomas and I are collaborating together, and she has put together a really successful program that has proved to be successful. The proof is in the pudding. How are the clients doing? They're doing great.
Right.
The protocol is different than the brain reboot, so it's going to be longer when you're dealing with addiction, detox, and recovery. So this could be from 10 days to 18 days consecutively. Again, it takes a lot of commitment on their part, but at the end of the protocol, the body is completely turned over, if you will. Brain is reset. You have a big army of neurotransmitters communicating again. And what's really cool is that it can actually stop active withdrawals in people withdrawing from alcohol or opioids if they're in having seizures, if they're violently ill. Administering NAD can almost halt those withdrawals in their tracks and detoxes the body fairly quickly so that not only is the substance out of your body and your body's repairing itself fairly fast, but you're also, you don't remember the craving, you don't remember that urge, you don't remember the taste. And I think that's really, really important with people going through the recovery process. So I think it would be a great thing to add in conjunction with other recovery therapies.
Mm-hmm.
Still have to be determined, and you still have to be mindful and make better choices and put better foods inside your body and just kind of transform your whole life. But taking away the withdrawal and the cravings and getting that out of your system just takes half that battle away. And they've had
Right. I mean, we've really found, as you're finding, that getting the brain back online, getting those neurotransmitters fed and firing and communicating effectively allows people to then pay attention to the other two legs of the recovery stool,
Absolutely.
the social and the spiritual. But
Absolutely.
you get the brain on board first.
Yes, definitely.
Jeni, any final words you have for us?
I just want to, say thank you again, Christina, for this program. I'm starting level 2 now, and I'm super excited about that. So there's more work to do, and I'm just continuing to research all the time. That's what I feel like I research for a living. But I love it, and the knowledge is priceless. And I will continue to build my practice and stay in connect and community with you all, and
Wonderful.
make this a big movement. Try to contribute to what this will be, which is a big movement and a step forward with health and wellness.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you found your niche.
Yeah, I think so.
And more power to you.
Thank you, Christina.